because now we have some more updates when it comes to Karen Read and this civil case and where it's going to take place. It's looking like the Karen Read case is getting moved to federal court, which means we might not see any of Karen Read until this thing is done or if it's settled. So we're going to find out more information here about why it's moved. We're actually going to hear from brother counsel, and he's going to explain and give some information as to what that means. And then we can only hope here that we'll still be able to cover some of this, because it's looking like Karen Read is saying that her constitutional rights were violated, and that's why she's bringing this countersuit, which is something that's going to need to be handled in federal court. So let's check this out from News 5 there in Boston, and then we'll hear from brother counsel on some of the reasons why Karen Read's case is going to be moving and if it's going to stay this way moving forward. Check this out.
News Center 5's David Bienick live in Canton tonight with the possible reasons behind this legal maneuvering. David, good evening.
Ben, good evening to you. Unlike criminal cases, civil lawsuits are not necessarily tied to a specific location. And when it comes to how the outcome of the case can be affected, location can mean a lot. Karen Read filed a lawsuit last week against 8 people, 5 witnesses who were in the house the night John O'Keefe died, and 3 police investigators she says tried to frame her, and in doing so, violated her civil rights.
That is, of course, a federal issue.
And because of that, the defendants in Read's lawsuit have now moved it from the state court in Bristol County to the federal court in Boston. But it might not stay there, says retired Judge Jim Barretto.
And I suspect we'll hear shortly, don't know, of course, that the plaintiffs, Ms. Read and her attorneys, object to this attempt to remove this case.
In their filing, the defendants accuse Read of an ongoing and malicious attempt to evade responsibility for John O'Keefe's death. They say she is smearing and defaming them, and that her lawsuit is a vengeful use of the judicial process.
What would you want to be paid to go through what I've been through?
Read's criminal case ended with her being found not guilty of O'Keefe's death. If her civil case stays in federal court, no cameras will be allowed, and the jury will be drawn from a larger pool of people.
I suspect, and again, it's just my gut feeling, that they want this case in a federal district court, which is far removed from an environment in the county court that they likely see as having been toxic.
Karen Read faces a separate wrongful death lawsuit filed by the family of John O'Keefe in Plymouth County Court, and the witnesses that she is suing have threatened to sue her for defamation. Live in Canton, David Bienick, WCVB News Center 5.
And again, those are all threats. We haven't seen anything on that yet. So now that's being moved to federal court. We're going to hear from brother counsel here, and I'll leave a link to this full video in the description for you guys so you can hear a lawyer actually explain it and talk about what this means, Karen Read being moved to federal court, and which parts of it we're actually going to see play out in the state court. I'll leave a link to this. Y'all make sure you go show some love to brother counsel and support him as well. Check this out.
These 2 separate cases, right? We got the case where the Karen Read is defending against, and then we have this other case that they filed a separate complaint in, alleging all these civil rights defending against.
Super fast.
We've got these 2 separate cases, right? We got the case where the Karen Read is defending against, and then we have this other case that they filed a separate complaint in, alleging all these civil rights violations against the McCabe's, the Alberts, former Trooper Proctor, should I say, and the Buchanan, etc. So, what happens? Well, the first thing that we have to understand is that once you remove to federal court, the federal court then has jurisdiction over that complaint, over that filing. And therefore, even if you then move to consolidate it in a separate case, well, you're moving in state court to consolidate. The state court does not have jurisdiction anymore over that complaint. So they cannot even order the consolidation anymore. You've got to first get the federal court to remand it back to state court, and then maybe you can move on or proceed with the consolidation. So what I foresee happening is that this issue is going to be moot in the case of Karen Read's wrongful death, right? That was the case where they moved to consolidate. It hasn't even been filed yet. It was served. That's the way it works in Massachusetts. And right now, the state court does not have jurisdiction anymore over that matter. So as far as I see, this is going to proceed the state court where Karen Read is defending herself for the wrongful death. And then there's going to be the separate claim that Karen Read is the plaintiff in, and which there may be some counterclaims against her for defamation, which that's what it seems like from their answer. We'll see if that all happens. But that's how I see this proceeding. The Karen Read proceeding in state court defending herself, which is what we can all see. And the other case where she filed the civil rights complaint, that's going to proceed most likely in federal court, unless for some reason they come up with some reason why they should be remanded back to state court. So we'll see if that gets litigated in the federal courts. But again, the federal courts are a lot more under lock and key. It's hard for us to see everything that's going on in the federal court, and which is why I always believed that the civil case, the defendants are going to want to remove to federal court so they can get out of the public sphere, and it's a little bit more under lock and key. It's not as transparent. We can't see everything that's going on in court. They don't allow cameras in there, et cetera, et cetera. We've been through that already before. So let's pull up the notice of removal and some very feisty language in here. So let's get started. Here we go. This was the notice of filing the removal. Let me just pull it up on my side also over here. All right. So please take notice that Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Higgins. So that's not all the defendants. If you take a look, let's see, there's many more defendants here. Michael Proctor, Sergeant Yuri Buchanan, Lieutenant Brian Tully. So what about those people? So we're going to have to see if the complaint addresses that. I'm sorry, if this notice of removal addresses that. Because, right, we know that there has to be unanimity when it comes to removing to federal court. So we'll see what happens. Every single party has to consent. So let's see if they address that in this notice of removal. So again, please take notice that Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Higgins have on this date filed a notice of removal in the United States District Court for the District of Massachusetts, pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1446. A copy of the notice of removal and all accompanying documents is attached hereto as Exhibit A. Moving right along.
And I'm going to leave a link to this in the description again for y'all to go check out the full explanation from Brother Counsel. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out moving forward, because it now makes sense why there's a lot of money being asked for, because if you're dividing this, you're going to be fighting this in two separate courts. This is going to cost so much money, so much time. And it'll be interesting to see if anybody settles, because I know they don't want to fight this. Also, moving forward, when it comes to some evidence with Karen Read, Boston 25 has this update when it comes to Karen Read's phones and what's the deal with her getting her phone.
A matter of Karen Read being acquitted.
Here we go.
What happened to the phone state police took from Karen Read nearly 2 years ago? It's a question 25 Investigates has been asking. Investigative reporter Ted Daniel found a battle over the phones behind the scenes.
As we've been reporting, the Massachusetts State Police has 2 iPhones belonging to Karen Read. A special prosecutor wants to search them for evidence that she plotted with Aiden Carney, a.k.a. Turtle Boy, to intimidate people who testified against her in her murder case. For the first time, we're hearing from both sides.
Do you believe that the special prosecutor has the blessing of the DA's office to do this?
I expect that he has the direction of the DA's office to do this.
Attorney Benjamin Herbalist joined Karen Read's legal team about a month ago. This is his take on why Special Prosecutor Robert Cosgrove won't return her phones.
I think it's a matter of Karen Read being acquitted for murder, and there's still so much pressure from one side on the DA's office to get her for something.
Cosgrove responded to us by email. He says the phones were seized prior to Read's first trial in a related but separate witness intimidation probe.
John O'Keefe was found on the lawn of a guy named Brian Albert.
The probe centers around Read's communication with the controversial content creator Aiden Carney, who calls himself Turtle Boy. Cosgrove says law enforcement has always planned to search the devices, and any suggestion that it is retribution is unfounded public relations spin. A previous attempt to indict Karen Read for targeting witnesses failed in front of a grand jury. Aiden Carney, on the other hand, is facing witness intimidation charges, which he denies on the grounds of free speech.
Phones were seized and they haven't been searched.
No,
they haven't been.
And they can't be searched.
In a November 2025 affidavit, State Police Lieutenant Brian Tully confirmed Read's passwords are needed to immediately access her phones. Tully argues that Read's conversations with Carney did not cease after Carney's devices were seized, and her devices may yield evidence of any such conversations.
I think that the case against Turtle Boy flies in the face of the First Amendment as well. I hope that this investigation into Karen Read, which is seems like retribution, finally comes to an end.
Cosgrove tells me he works independently of the Norfolk DA's office. He says he filed a legal memo during Reed's second trial stating this investigation was moving forward. We'll be watching to see what Judge Krupp decides.
And we will be as well. Shout out to Ted Daniels doing an amazing job over there. I agree, man. Turtle Boy should be able to say what he wants to say. And a lot is being alleged that this is one of the main reasons Karen Reed has an issue, because there may have been conversations that took place that now jeopardize her, and she may be facing more issues as a result of this. So we're going to stay up to date on that. Lastly, I thought you all would find this interesting when it comes to the funding for the McAlberts side. We have this update. Now, I haven't personally verified this, but this is something I saw that was interesting, and I want to know y'all's take on this, because it's looking like Yuri Buchanan is asking people to support the Alberts and the McCabe's when it comes to their legal fund. What does it say? There's no way an active duty state police trooper is posting on social media in support of witnesses involved in ongoing trials that his unit investigated. I think Yuri Buchanan and Brian Tully are probably on the way out of MSP. This is evidence of bias and compromises cases. Yuri Buchanan allegedly says this: As I post infrequently, when I do, it is usually noteworthy. The conflict is straightforward. It is a contest between decency, justice, and order versus evil, chaos, and lunacy. They need your support, every donation, regardless of the amount. And it's alleged that he is sharing the link to the support for the legal fund of the Alberts, the McCabe's, Brian Higgins, and the others. Let me know what y'all think about this. Is it true? Is it not? We'll have to find out. And when it comes to Karen Reed being moved to federal court, are we going to be able to get information for that readily? Y'all know we'll be here to talk about it, and I'll give you guys an update as soon as we find out. Crazy stuff.